And welcome to the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast. Frank, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing awesome, man. I've got back on the weightlifting kick, so I've been lifting weights. I've been talking to you about this, so I'm feeling swole today. So I'm super pumped to be back, and super pumped to have Mike on the podcast. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Frank, you looked so jacked today.
Thanks. I really needed that. I guess I shouldn't have shared that, but I guess now I have to expound upon it. I used to be a pretty strong guy, and I haven't lifted a weight in like 2 years. I've been running a lot, and I just feel a little weak. So I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to
Nice.
get my way back.
I am setting the bar high. You look jacked. You look ripped. What are some other adjectives? Like you just look amazing. So now you have to live up to it. And people see you, they're gonna go, "Hey, that dude said you were ripped."
Yeah, you can throw more adjectives out there. Regal is something
There you
that that sounds cool. Anyway, let's move on before we get off the rails. I think John's better at leading us in than I am.
Okay, yeah, let's get to business. Not to stop all the fun, but maybe we can have some real estate focused fun. So, Mike Simmons, he's got a long resume that I'm sure we're going to talk through, and I'm super excited about it. But Mike, can we just start out right now with what does your real estate business look like today?
So today we are kind of getting back into 2018 form. Took a little dip a year and a half ago. We do about 100 deals a year in my business. We're mostly wholesaling. We do some strategic flipping when it makes total sense. But in this market, man, it's just so it's hard because we'll get a deal. We'll analyze the exit strategies and we'll say, hey, we think we can make X amount on a flip. Let's try to wholesale it and make all of that in a wholesale. And we're getting it because the market's so hot. So we're wholesaling 95% of the deals that we get right now, flipping a few. And then my partner and I take down some rentals here and there. And really, we take a lot of the stuff that gets thrown on the scrap heap. In other words, we'll get deals in and we'll market them out to our buyers list. And our buyers will turn up their nose because they're in Michigan and they're used to getting, they're used to buying houses for $40,000, putting $10,000 into them, and renting them for $900 to $1,000 a month, right? Which is a lot of parts of the country. You go, that's not possible. Well, in Michigan, it's pedestrian. That's easy. And so if it's not like crazy great numbers, our buyers will just basically go, nah, we'll wait for the next one. And me and my partner take those down. So we take down some strategic rentals here and there, but mostly we're a wholesaling company.
Excellent. I'm probably going to interrupt you a bunch, Frank, because I feel like Mike is talking our language, and I have a feeling our business is pretty similar. So I'd like to dig into your flip versus wholesale discussion. We were like, hey, 3-1 was our decision point, and we've kind of gotten to the point where I think maybe what you're saying is like we actually want to wholesale as much as possible, because even if the numbers look good on a flip, it takes so much more bandwidth that we're looking to wholesale everything. But how do you look at that decision?
We do. I would love to say we have this really dialed in process. We punch the numbers on a spreadsheet and it just tells us an answer. We look at it case by case. And the reason we do that is because if you just say 3-1 or 2-1 or whatever, let's just say you have some number. If it's, 50% more to flip it, then we're going to flip it. But we look at it as how far is it away from us being able to go visit it physically? How much work is there need to be done? What kind of work needs to be done? Because if it's got mold and foundation issues, like I'm almost always going to try to wholesale that thing just to not introduce all that chaos into my life and the bandwidth like you talked about. If it's a real cosmetic flip, we may flip it even though we're not making that much more, just because it's easy. And why not make an extra 5 or 10 grand if it's going to be no sweat off our back? We can just send our contractor out there, not even visit it, and we know it's going to get done, right? So it's a little bit case by case, but I would say real-time numbers in Michigan, our wholesaling fee is, I'm not going to talk about the outliers, but like generally speaking, we're somewhere between probably 12 and 25,000. That's probably the range that we wholesale. That's our assignment fee. If we're going to make like 30,000 or less on the flip, we'll almost always wholesale it when we're in that range. But if we're like over that 30,000, going closer to 35, that's when the decision gets a little tricky, right? Because I can do a bunch of wholesale deals in the time that I'm spending time and energy on that flip. So I'm all about it. But when you start getting into double and maybe, 1.5 times what you could make on the wholesale, it's a business decision at that point. Now, if that house that I'm going to make 35 on is an hour and a half away and it's got mold and foundation issues, screw it. Let's just make our 12, 15 grand and move on.
I love that answer. We've struggled it's a good struggle to have, but we've been going over those decisions too. But I'm wondering, since both of us are going through this decision-making process at the same time, if it's actually market driven to a certain extent. So my question to you is, how is buyer behavior in 2021 in this crazy market changing your business, if it is at all?
It's everything, right? So what we did this a few years ago, but we don't do it as like regimented and like religiously as we used to. But what we used to do is we had a big whiteboard in our office. By the way, we're virtual now, so we don't have this, but we had a big whiteboard in our office. Every time we get a deal, we'd put the address up there and we would run the numbers and all the crunch the numbers. And we would go, okay, we believe we can get, this amount for the wholesale and with this amount for the flip. And we would list it to our buyers for the flip profit, getting that. And we were getting it 9 times out of 10. And so we stopped doing it because we're like, we know we can, like, our buyers are crazy, right? And, but that's a testament and the reason why your buyers list is so important. I have always said, and I told my team this, if we were to sell our business tomorrow, I believe what they're buying is my buyers list. I really do. There's not much else. Yeah, we have systems and processes and we have people in place that are really, really good. I get that, right? But you're going to hurt me the most if you take my buyers list away without any possibility of being able to recover those in any way and erase my memory of who my good buyers are. You would hurt me more long-term than any other thing you take from me. Anything you take, any one of my people, anything. The buyers list is going to kill me for a while. So our buyers list has been curated over the last 6 years. And we have such like crazy good buyers that what we're getting for our deals now is easily twice what we used to get when we started wholesaling. And it's all buyers, right? So this drives me crazy. And I'll say this because this is like my soapbox. This is my big soapbox. And I talked to a guy recently who told me this, and I only knew him for about a half an hour. And I started like really ripping into him hardcore, like he was a close friend that I'd known for years. When wholesalers tell me, and he told me this, the dispositions part of my wholesaling business is easy. He said, it's easy. That part's easy. I said, you're doing it wrong then. You're totally doing it wrong. And you're leaving so much money on the table. And he was doing like 100 deals a year too, close to 100. I said, dude, you are leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit on the table. I guarantee it. 100%. I guarantee you, I can make you $200,000 in the next 12 months if you listen to what I tell you about Dispo. And he did, and he eventually joined 7-Figure Flipping, which I'm a part of, and he's already starting to crush it. He texted me literally this week and said, dude, I just did something that you told me specifically at that lunch and made an extra $5,000 on a deal. Now, I said, that's great. Now, times that by the 90 to 100 deals you're going to do, I just made you $500,000. He's like, you're the best. So I'm just telling you, that drives me crazy when people act like acquisitions is the skill, right? That's the magic. That's the secret sauce. I'm going to spend time and money. I'm going to send them to training. I'm going to do this, that. I'm going to pay them a ton of money, but I'm going to hit the easy button when it comes to Dispo. I have this one. Here's the worst thing you can ever hear. I've got this one guy in my market. He'll buy everything that I get. I just want to scream. I'm like, are you an idiot? That person is making out. They are the beneficiary of all your work. You are not. You're losing money. They're making money because you're too lazy to do that part right. That's my soapbox.
I like it. Let me dig in a little bit. So if we made the assumption that our Dispo manager was average, Carlo, we love you, but if he was an average guy and you came in to straighten us out, what are some of those big wins that you could help the average Dispo manager across the country get?
I'll tell you what, I am almost to the point now where I want to put a challenge out to people. If I can't raise your profits on the back end by 50%, I'll give you $100,000. Like, I know that I can fix everyone's back end, and I've yet to meet someone who's just nailing it 100%. So I'll tell you right now what Carlo may or may not be doing. He's probably great, but I'll give you some highlights of some things that people do that's just grossly wrong, like totally ineffective. Number one, if you guys have anything that remotely sounds like a VIP list, you are crazy. There are no VIPs on the Dispo side of it. If you want me to pick up the phone when you call, if you want special treatment, then buy a lot of properties and I'll make sure that I pick up the phone and call you when I have a deal, but I won't call you until I've sent it out to my entire list. That includes the person who got on it yesterday, who I don't know, who will never buy a property from me. And they're going to get it at the exact same time as the guy who's bought 50 properties from me in the last 5 years. They're going to get it exact same time. Nobody will ever get a first look because first look benefits the buyer only because they're able to corner the market. They can box it, right? Basketball, they can box everyone out. I don't want to boxing everyone out because if there's some knucklehead that's going to pay way too much for that property, I want to get his bid. I want to see that, right? So no first looks, no preferred buyers. I'm really against people okay, let's just say I sign up for your buyers list and I call you up and I'm like, hey, Frank, or whoever does it, Carlo. Hey, Carlo, this is Mike. I'm in your market. I'm a flipper. I'm a serious buyer. I've got tons of cash behind me. Here, write this down. I want you to write down the kind of properties that I'm looking for. If Carlo even picks up his pen, he's making a mistake. He can say, okay, go ahead, shoot. What are you looking for? And just sit there with his arms folded and go, awesome. We get that kind of stuff all the time. If something sneaks through the email that isn't exactly what you're looking for, is that okay? Like, just delete it, right? Like, you don't care. And the guy will go, I don't care, but this is what I'm looking for. I go, good, awesome, I got it. And send him everything. Because me, Mike, I'm in your market and I say, Carlo, I want only 3-bedroom with 2 bathroom. I only want a house with a basement and I have to be in this city, right? Okay, 6 months from now, I'm not getting enough deals. And so I decide I'll take 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, and I'll also take this adjacent city because I like that city too. Well, what if I forget to call Carlo, right? Carlo doesn't know. And if he's only sending me the stuff that I told him I wanted, we are not sending him things he wants now. And if you have 1,000 people on your buyers list, I've got 4,500 people. I can't call 4,500 people once a month to make sure that their buying strategy hasn't changed. It's insane. Send everybody everything, but do them the courtesy of putting the address in the subject line so they can quickly see it and go, I don't want a house in that area, right? Or they can Google it real quick. In our email, we put a Google link to the house. So even if they don't recognize the address, they open up the email, they hit the link, it takes them to where it is, and they're like, I don't like that neighborhood. They delete it, right? Let them delete it. So those are a couple things that they do that's absolutely horrible. The other thing is, this is something that I never even heard of this before until I heard of it. And the guy that I took to lunch and kind of yelled at him when I didn't even really know him. This is the one thing he did that got me yelling, is he said, not yelling literally, but like kind of giving him a lot of crap. He said, I just had this new thing that I'm doing in my market and all my buyers love it. And first of all, when he said that, I went, well, it's costing you money. If they love it, it's because it's hurting you. But okay, he said, I do a buy it now price. So I'll put it out. I'm asking 115. The buy it now price is 120. And I'm like, well, you're losing money. That's a ridiculous strategy. You're not eBay. Why would you do that? Like, don't do a buy it now price, because if I see that email and I like it, buy it now, you can't even take any of it. You can't even listen to the offers that come in an hour from now. Somebody's on their break at work. They work at, some big company. They've got a huge 401k with a self-directed IRA. They can't look at their emails until lunch. You send this out at 8:00 in the morning, and me, knucklehead, who's sitting at home, I'm buying it at 120. But what you don't know, that guy that has a self-directed IRA that has to wait till lunch, he'll buy it for 135. Because it meets his criteria. It's exactly what he wants. He has his own crew, whatever, right? Whatever his numbers tell him. But why would you have a buy it now price? You're choking off like capitalism. You're choking off your ability to maximize this property. And if you have a team, and your team in any way, shape, or form, including your acquisition people, if any way, shape, or form, they're being compensated on your net, your profits, and you're doing a buy it now price, you're taking money out of your team's pocket. You're literally costing your team money. Stupid. Sorry, Carlo, if you're doing it, stupid.
I agree. I think we're just market facilitators. There's a secondary real estate market, and we move the properties from point A to point B.
But the point is, you have to have the same amount of diligence and emphasis on the Dispo process that you do the acquisitions process. But acquisitions is sort of like the sexy, good-looking sibling, and dispositions is the ugly youngest child. Everyone seems to like crap on dispositions. Like, any moron could do dispositions. You just send an email out and give it to the highest bidder. No. That is what you do if you're bad at it, right? But, just like on the front end, hey, anybody can go in a house and go, here's what I'll give you. This is my maximum allowable offer. Take it or leave it. Like, no, you would fire an acquisitions guy if he walked in a house and said, I'll give you 110, take it or leave it. And they said no, and he walks out. You'd go, that's the worst acquisition guy I've ever heard. But people do that in Dispo and they think it's okay. Like they think that's acceptable. Or if I call you and go, hey man, hey Carlo, I'll buy everything you got. Give it, let me see it first and I'll buy it. 100% I'll buy it if you just let me see it first. I'm always gonna get a better deal than you are if you take that approach, but people do it because it's easy and they don't want to think about that part of it. It's almost like you ever buy a used car and you think you got the price and you're talking everything you're all on the same page. You sit down to sign the papers and they go, oh, I forgot destination charge is $600. And you go, what? You didn't tell me that. And they're like, well, it's just what it is. You've gone so far down the rabbit hole on that car that you're just like, whatever, just whatever, I'll sign it. Right. That's how people handle Dispo and they're losing money. If they're only doing one deal a year, maybe they're losing a few thousand. As you scale up, you're losing hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. And it becomes more important too, because like a weak Dispo person can have 2 deals they're managing and probably gut their way through it and figure out a way. We have 20, which is, we got a little overloaded in C2C or Dispo last month. We had, I think 30 deals he was selling. So we dropped more than we should or more than we have. Because you're right. You get the processes matter, right? It does matter.
Yeah. People want to kind of turn and burn when they get that buried. So now to Carlo's defense, you guys have to manage that workflow. He can't have 30 properties. I know from experience, I can tell you my Dispo guy is lights out and when he gets to 15, that's when he starts hitting the capacity of what he can possibly do effectively. 15 is like the hard limit. If he's got more than 15, I know he's cutting corners. So somebody has to jump in and help him.
I'm glad you said that. That's good feedback for John and I.
I'm telling you, if you ask Carlo, I'll bet you he'll say between 12 and 15 is where it gets to be a little crazy.
Yeah, it is a little crazy. I think you're right. So I'll ask you another question. So you're talking about all the good opportunities you got in disposition. I'll ask a question about 2021 and how pricing's going up, right? Buyers are paying higher prices, but acquisitions and most scaled wholesaling companies are also, I think, paying higher prices. We used to make, I think our max offer last year was 70% minus resale repair costs, which is kind of normal. And I think now in most cities we're 75. In some parts of Florida, we'll even go a little higher. Are you guys doing that too to stay competitive? And is that putting stress on the back end of your business?
I don't think it's working out like that for us right now. It was earlier in the year and last year we were having some of that. But like I said, we're experiencing volume like we haven't experienced for almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, because here's the deal. Let's go back to basics for a minute. I know everyone's like wanting more for their house because everyone hears it. The house prices are crazy. And so people are unrealistic a little bit sometimes. But think about it. Why do people, if let me just phrase it a different way. If people sell to us as investors, if they only sold to us because of what they feel their house is worth, we would never buy a property. We buy properties as investors because people find themselves in really bad situations, life situations, divorce, death, job loss, job transfer, like all of those things are happening still. Okay. And so if our business was dependent on people selling us at a discount because they thought their house wasn't worth very much, we would die every time the economy is doing what it's doing now. But we're still buying at roughly the same price we've always bought at, because if somebody has a death in the family and they have to sell, like if you go into my house and I say, I've got to sell my house, like I have to be out and I need the money by September 15th. Well, guess what? You're their only option because they're not selling it on the MLS. I don't care how hot the market is. You're not selling it in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, like closed and money in the bank, right? So now they're in a compromised position where they need to sell fast. And if that's the number one concern is selling fast and getting that money because you need it for something, you need to pay for a funeral, you need something, whatever, right? Like now that's why we're getting it for a discount. So because of the reason why we buy as investors, we're still buying at relatively the same discounts. It's just the people, before, if we bought 90% of our properties from those kind of people and 10% we bought from people who knew they could get more, but they just felt like selling it a little faster, but they could wait if they wanted to, those 10% are gone because they're always going to put it on the MLS now because They're going to make so much more, but that still leaves the 90% that had to sell it to us. Because one of the first things we do when we go into a house is we'll say, Frank, this is a great looking house. Why don't you put it on the MLS? You'd make more. They could pay more. Somebody will pay you more in the MLS than I'll be able to give you. So why not? And then you spend the next 10 minutes telling me why you can't list it with a realtor. Good. That's out of the way. So now when I do get to price and you say, well, I think I could probably make a little more I think it's worth more than that. I could say, yeah, it is. And you should put it on the MLS if you want to make full retail value, but you just told me you can't do that. Remember when I walked in, you said, I can't do that. So, here we are. So that's kind of the way we approach it, right? A little more elegant, obviously that's aggressive, but we do it a little more elegantly, but that's kind of what the idea is.
How are you finding deals today? What marketing channels and kind of how has that evolved over the last couple of years?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, if you would have asked me, I would have said 75% of my deals are direct mail, 75%. It's our workhorse. And it had been for 5 years prior to that, direct mail. Today, fast forward to what are we talking? End of August, 2021. Our number one deal source is pay-per-click. And during COVID, direct mail dropped off the face of the earth and pay-per-click kind of had a huge uptick because everyone's sitting home. Everyone's Googling, how do I sell my house? I lost my job, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I think pay-per-click went up first. So pay-per-click is huge for us. And we're doing some cold calling now. We've tried cold calling about 4 times over the last 6 years. And every time it was a failed experiment. This time it's working out a little bit better. We have a service. My partner is part of another mastermind that somebody was using a service. He's like, I think we should try these guys. And it's okay. But pay-per-click is our number one source, hands down. We're getting way more from pay-per-click than anything else. Like I said, cold calling is bringing in some. We do some networking stuff. We're pretty connected in our community. So people bring stuff to us once in a while. I just bought a house recently. We were talking before we went live. I just bought a house. My realtor who helped me buy the house said, hey, I've got this condo that someone called me. They want to list it. This thing is a disaster. It's got mold. It's a mess. Are you guys interested? So I'm like, yeah, right. So we get deals like that too, just from having been around as long as we have been.
That's awesome. We're also on the PPC train as of, I think, May. We turned it on and we got contracts finally in July. It takes a little while. How long did it take you guys to get your PPC to a place where it was profitable? It doesn't take 10 days, right? It takes a while.
It's crazy. I'm going to crap on your point a little bit, but I don't mean to, but I'm just going to be honest. You asked me, so I'll tell you.
Sure.
We've been doing PPC now for 6 years, right? So it's not new to us, but we made $20,000 off of a PPC deal within the first month. Super not normal. I've talked to people, I've coached people who did PPC, who started PPC. It can take several months. So we just got super lucky out of the gate. But we made 20 grand, but then I think it took us 2 or 3 months to get another deal, right? It was just crazy fluke. But I think if I was going to start a PPC campaign now or hire someone to do my PPC, I say, you have to give it 6 months. Like you cannot expect it to produce in the first couple of months. Any marketing channel at all, I think you should give 6 months. You can tweak it. You can make fine adjustments to try to change outcomes if you don't like it within the 6 months. But if you quit after a month or two, any marketing, I think you might as well not have done it. In my opinion, it's not enough time. You need more time.
Excellent. So I haven't read your book, but I looked it up on Amazon and it looks awesome. It's called Level Jumping. Everyone should go check it out. My question is scale. Okay. Yeah. Frank and I have the two of us as a partnership, and we have 2 stateside employees, and we have or team members, and we've got 10 to 15 virtual assistants that work with us, right? And we're doing well. But is that the appropriate scale? I think Frank and I would say if we went back to the start, if we wanted to be as profitable as possible, we'd probably try to stay as small as possible. Because as you scale in this industry, the margins don't necessarily get better. What are your thoughts on scale?
I think people, number one, need to really, really be honest with themselves about why they want to scale. And it's a great question. And it's really great. And I have a lot of experience in this from both personal as well as anecdotal, watching other people. I think sometimes people scale because they think that's what they're supposed to want to do, or they see somebody or hear somebody on a podcast or somewhere who's doing 100 deals or 200 or 500. And they get this, like, they graft that person's goals onto themselves and they scale for the wrong reasons. For me, I scaled up notoriously fast. We went from doing 200 200K in profits to $1 million in profits in less than 12 months. That's real numbers, really happened. But when you do that, it's like saying I went from being 5 foot tall to 6.5 feet tall in 6 months. That hurts. There's going to be some real pain involved with that, right? And so we started hiring fast and throwing people into positions that they probably weren't going to be good at, and hiring acquisition people. And then we had to fire them. And we went through this crazy like turnstile of people, and we got to $1 million, but we couldn't get past that for a while, because once we got to $1 million, the bottom crumbled and we had to start replacing people. And so it stunted our growth because we grew too fast. And we grew fast because we just are, me and my partner are super aggressive. We have super high goals, and we're both super type A driven kind of people. But I think scaling more slowly is definitely more appropriate. And then some people I know who scaled up and got this big team, and then they shrunk back down for whatever reason, are happier when they got smaller. And my team, when I went to $1 million at our peak, we had 13 people. We have 5 now. And we're doing roughly the same numbers with 5 people that we did with 13. It was insane. But we thought, like build for what you want to be. Like we're hiring people for jobs that don't even have enough work to fill them, right? Because we're like, that's where we'll be in a year. I don't know. If you start growing too fast, you don't do a great job hiring a lot of times. And we were bad managers. We hired poorly, and we were bad leaders because we were just putting people, turning and burn, put them in a seat. I did it. I need you to do it. And I need you to do it now. And if you don't do it, you're out, right? It's like, that's horrible management. Our company culture was crap. Like it wasn't fun to work for us. We were all about the numbers. And if you didn't hit your numbers, you were gone. And it was like, it was just like a high pressured, like stock market environment. Like we were just screaming at people and money was flowing all over the place. And it was just inefficient. It was kind of silly, but yeah, good question though. I think people scale for the wrong reasons and they scale too fast. I think people would be better off to keep their employee count as low as possible as they scale.
What's the difference between like a bootstrapped company, which is pretty much every wholesaler, or someone who raised money through a venture capital firm? A person who raises money VC can probably do whatever they want, right? If you're bootstrapping, it's a little bit different, right? You got to be profitable somewhat soon, or else it doesn't work.
That's right. And it's also the difference between being handed money and earning money, right? You don't respect the money as much when it's handed to you. And, frankly, you do VC, and I've not hired VC money, but I get it. Like you have to somewhat have to answer to people that gave you the money, right? Like you're accountable to them. I don't know. I think bootstrapping is always honestly the better way. I mean, even Facebook was bootstrapped, right, for a while. So I think bootstrapping is the way to go. And because I think you respect it a little more. And when you have, if I had a ton of money when I started my business, I would have hired right out of the gate. I wouldn't have learned anything because I wouldn't have done anything I didn't like doing. I would have hired someone to do it, but I wouldn't even understand what they're doing. It's very hard to lead people when you don't understand what their job is. And so I had to do every job first. And then I started hiring people. It makes sense, right? My passion about Dispo, like I wouldn't have this passion if I hired a Dispo manager right out of the gate. I wouldn't even know what he was doing, or he or she, right? But I was good at it. And so I was able to hire someone and train them to be really good at it. And the guy that I have now is probably better than I was.
Excellent. Where last kind of question until we get to our final questions, but where do you see the wholesale market going? What are some big ideas that you think will happen in wholesaling over the next couple of years?
I mean, I wish I had a great answer for you, man. I don't know that there's some revolution in wholesaling coming. I think the biggest problem with wholesaling is people look at it as like the stepping stone to something better, or like I'm going to wholesale and pile money until I can flip, and then I'm going to do that until I can do multifamily. And they see it as this like very insignificant first step into, I look at it the complete opposite way. I think your chance of being a successful wholesaler who can scale their business up and get deals reliably and make them very profitable is very, very low, your chance, if you've never flipped or bought a rental property before. Because wholesaling is, in my opinion, wholesaling is harder. If you just want to give it an overall like blanket statement, it's harder than flipping. It's harder than being a landlord and having rentals. It just is. And the problem is people start there because they're told on the internet that you should wholesale. You don't need money. You don't need experience. Find a deal, sell it to somebody for more money. Yeah, in theory, that's true. But I have wholesalers that call me in my market and they say, I got this deal. I have no idea what it's worth. I don't even know if it's a good deal. Like, I can't estimate the renovation. I don't know. And so they're either putting it out to their little pathetic, crappy list. They're either putting it out for way too much, which is insane looking, or it's way too low because they don't know what they have, right? And so I flipped for 6 years. Like, we talked about what we're doing now. We didn't talk about where I started, but I flipped for 6 years and I have 20 rentals. So I know what someone in that mindset is looking for, and I know how they run their numbers, and I know what they expect their profits to be. And so when I get a deal under contract, I price it at exactly what they expect and what they want and what I think they'll accept, and no more. I don't go super high, super low. I don't miss it like that. But wholesalers who've never done that, they miss it like that. So what I say is, if you want to be a great wholesaler, if that's really what you want, flip houses for a couple of years. Try to flip a dozen houses and buy a few rentals, or hang out with someone who doesn't talk to them about how they evaluate properties. And then you have a chance of being a really good wholesaler. Otherwise, you're shooting in the dark, right? A blind squirrel will find a nut every once in a while, right? That's fine if you want to be that wholesaler. But if you want to crank out 10, 20 deals a month, you better know what your client wants when you're selling them a product.
For sure. Great answer. I'm going to set you up on this one, Mike. If someone has enjoyed the last 30 minutes, but they might want a more deep dive into both finding and funding deals, do you have a resource that they might be able to check out?
I happen to. So I have found over the last several years that I've been coaching, mentoring, and hanging out with investors, the two things that I hear most often is, I can't find deals, or I can't find enough deals, or I can't find cheap deals, or I can't find the funding. I can't raise the money. I can't find the funding to fund the deals that I have, right? So those are the two big problems. I've created a course called the Real Estate Find and Fund Blueprint, where it's 4 weeks, it's fast, it's very interactive, and it's very in the weeds. Like, we're not talking high level theory, right? Send out a postcard and you'll get a deal. I'm talking about like getting into the weeds about multiple strategies for finding, not just finding deals, finding good deals, finding profitable deals, right? And also how to get those deals funded every single time. The program is laughably cheap. It's insanely cheap, but I think it's going to be highly effective for people, whether you're new or you're been around for a while, because everybody wants to find cheaper, better deals, right? Or cheaper, better money. If you have $1 million at your disposal for deals at 12%, wouldn't you like to get it at 6% or 7%? Like, right? We always want better deals. So it's called the Real Estate Find and Fund Blueprint. If you go to findandfundblueprint.com, you can check it out and get more details about it. Also, I only speak at one event every year, right? One event. It's the best event in real estate, in my opinion. It happens in October every single year. This year it's in Orlando. It's called Flip Hacking Live. I'm going to be one of the featured speakers. I'm going to be there for 3 days. You can hang out with me. We can talk shop. We can get lunch, whatever you want to do. Like, I'll be there. But it's an incredibly valuable 3 days where all the speakers there are not there to do anything but just pour knowledge on you. It's not a bunch of courses. Everyone gets on stage. They have something to sell you. Nope. It's just people who are crushing it, who are telling you what they're great at and just giving you a step-by-step process, right? It's called Flip Hacking Live. If you go to bestrealestateevent.com, you can check out Flip Hacking Live and get your tickets now. They're not going to be cheaper than they are right now, ever. They don't go on sale at the end. In fact, they'll be way more expensive right before the event, right? Because people are like procrastinating, they pay more. So go there now and get them, and you can get it as cheaply as they're ever going to be.
Excellent. Our company went to Flip Hacking Live virtually last year and really enjoyed it. Took a lot from it. And then for your course, I'm sure 4 weeks of you giving tips would be super beneficial. Frank was on your podcast. It was a couple months ago, but You gave him a couple pointers about Dispo that we immediately put into our business that have definitely made us a bunch of money. So thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm freakishly passionate about Dispo for whatever reason, but yeah, I can help you. And by the way, the Find and Fund course, it's guided and it's me. It's not like you watching a video, right? It's me, it's live, it's us talking. And at the end of every week, we just do open discussion. And if you're like, hey, this was all great, but I have a question about this one specific thing in my business, we'll talk about it. Okay. So not only are you going to get everything I'm going to give you about how to find and fund deals, I'll also get specific about your business if you have a question.
I love it. This is awesome. I want to reiterate what John said. What the advice you gave us in, I think it was November of last year. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
I think it was something about like how we listed our pricing and how we were soliciting offers. You were like, don't do that, dummy. You're wasting money. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he's correct. We did do it. So I'm super happy that we were able to have you on. And I really enjoyed this podcast. I actually think there's opportunity for our teams to collaborate with you, trying cold calling and us drowning in our deals, I guess, at the moment. So there's a natural inclination to catch up after this. But I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I appreciate it.
I know that the tip I remember. So I'll say it was basically the buy it now, right? Is we used to let people lock up the deal before the walkthrough, and Mike was like, don't let them do it. No matter what, don't let them lock it up until the walkthrough. Make sure you have the walkthrough happen. And we did that, and it immediately went up. And then we goaled our Dispo people to try to get 6 people to every walkthrough. And damn, if every time we get 6 people there, we get our biggest fees.
Yeah, if you get 6 or more, you almost always get an offer above your list price. It's like it's a great number as a rule of thumb. I agree.
And then one more compliment, because I'm in the complimenting mood, is one of the awesome things I heard you say on the Bigger Pockets podcast. It was the first time I heard it, was basically like, be a great wholesaler. That process we've heard so many people talk about, wholesaling be the gateway to some other profession. And I think you on that podcast was the first time I heard someone, who was, had success as a professional say, hey, if you like wholesaling, keep doing that. And it allowed a light bulb to go off, I think, for me and Frank to be like, if we look at all these different things you can do, I think wholesaling is what we actually like the best.
Yeah.
Let's quit trying to flip all these properties, quit trying to have all these rentals. Let's just be awesome wholesalers. So thanks.
Yeah. Yep. Actually. And that's the thing. It's active investing, but people think they act like you can't create a business out of it. You're right. You should do that, but create a team, build a team. I just bought a house. I spent yesterday, like at my new house, hanging out with contractors and just like doing stuff and putzing around. My team was getting deals and selling deals. Build a team so you don't have to do everything. But yeah, man, I love wholesaling. I have no patience. So wholesaling just fits my personality. And that impatience comes out when I teach Dispo, because I'm just like, what are you doing? Okay, stop doing it. Just stop. And here's why. And then, we just move on. So
awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Mike. Frank, take us away.
Thanks again, Mike. We had a great time talking Dispo and all things wholesaling. We'll see everybody next week. Thank you.